This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy. We go deep and lightly surface the big ideas.
All right, so today we're diving into something that I think a lot of dog owners think about.
Yeah.
Which is like, what is really the best way that we should be feeding our furry friends?
Absolutely.
And we are going deep on this question of kibble.
Right.
And, is it actually, is all the hype around all the other alternatives?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it actually worth it?
Yeah.
And for this, we've got some really interesting research here. So we've got a really fascinating article from Yale Medicine
Right.
about ultra-processed foods. And spoiler alert,
Yeah.
this relates to kibble more than you might think.
What's really interesting here is that our growing understanding of human nutrition is really now shaping how we think about feeding our pets.
It's like a total shift,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not just about filling the bowl anymore.
Right.
It's like actually making choices that could affect our dog's health
Yes.
years down the line.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this.
Mm.
Let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Kibble.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenient. It's affordable.
Right.
That's what most of us grew up with.
Yeah. And, despite the fact that kibble is sort of the go-to for, I think, something like 80% of dog owners,
Really?
there's growing evidence that it may not actually be the ideal choice.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty gritty,
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people swear by kibble,
Yeah.
right? Like their dogs are thriving.
Right.
They haven't seen any issues.
Exactly.
So how does the pet food industry address these these emerging concerns?
So their main argument is that high-quality kibble,
Okay.
when formulated to meet AAFCO guidelines, does provide all the necessary nutrients.
Okay.
And they really emphasize that convenience factor,
Yeah.
the cost effectiveness and the long shelf life.
Right.
And, now you're also seeing a lot of brands incorporating things like freeze-dried raw coatings or probiotics to kind of boost that nutritional value.
So they're acknowledging that there's room for improvement,
Yeah.
but they're still saying kibble can be a healthy option.
Precisely.
Okay.
But Canine Health lays out a pretty compelling counter-argument,
Okay.
highlighting a number of potential downsides
Right.
that even premium kibble brands might struggle with.
Okay. Lay it on me. What are the biggest red flags?
So one of the primary concerns is the high temperature processing that kibble undergoes.
Okay.
This intense heat and pressure, known as extrusion, can actually destroy a significant portion of the nutrients in the ingredients.
So is it kind of like how boiling vegetables for
Exactly.
too long zaps out all the goodness?
Exactly. And then to compensate for this nutrient loss,
Right.
manufacturers often add synthetic vitamins and minerals back in.
Okay.
And while technically providing those nutrients, they argue that these synthetic versions may not be as easily absorbed or utilized by a dog's body
Got it.
as their naturally occurring counterparts.
So it's like taking a multivitamin
Yeah,
instead of eating a whole foods diet.
exactly.
You might be checking the boxes, but the quality isn't the same.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
They also raise concerns about the quality of ingredients
Oh,
used in many kibble formulas.
yeah.
Even some premium brands rely heavily on things like meat meals
Yeah.
and byproducts,
Right.
which are essentially the leftover bits and pieces from the human food industry.
Right.
So while these provide some protein, they're not exactly the most nutritious or appealing cuts of meat.
It's like the difference between a juicy steak
Exactly.
and a mystery meat hot dog.
Precisely.
Okay.
Both are technically meat, but the quality and nutritional value are worlds apart.
Totally. Okay. So I've got the mystery meat.
Then there's the issue of fillers.
Uh-oh.
Kibble often contains large amounts of carbohydrates, like corn wheat or soy.
Right.
These are cheap and calorie-dense,
Yeah.
but dogs don't actually need them in large quantities.
Right.
They thrive on animal protein and fats.
So it's like filling up on empty calories instead of getting the nutrients they actually need.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, this is making me already rethink
Yeah.
that kibble bag in my pantry. But, I mean, isn't this just fear-mongering?
Well,
Don't most dogs do just fine on kibble?
that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Many dogs do appear healthy on a kibble diet, at least for a while.
Yeah.
But Canine Health argues that this is like a slow burn.
Okay.
The long-term effects of these less than ideal ingredients, the processing and the lack of moisture, might not be immediately apparent.
So it's not necessarily about acute illness.
Right.
But more like the potential for chronic health issues down the line.
Exactly.
Okay, so what kind of problems are we talking about?
Well, they link kibble to a number of issues.
Okay.
Obesity, insulin resistance, inflammation.
Got it.
Even digestive problems.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just the ingredients.
Okay.
Canine Health also calls out the synthetic additives and preservatives.
Okay.
Used to extend shelf life and enhance flavor.
You mean like the artificial colors and flavors?
Exactly.
The same stuff that gets a bad rap in human food.
Precisely.
Oh, boy.
And some of these additives like BHA, BHT, and ethoxyquin have been linked to potential health problems in both humans and animals.
So this is starting to sound less like Canine Health is like overreacting and more like there are some legitimate concerns here. Okay, so before we write off kibble entirely, let's dig into some of these potential downsides.
Yeah.
What are some of the specific long-term risks associated with kibble?
One of the major concerns is the chronic dehydration that can result from a diet of dry kibble. Kibble typically has only about 10% moisture.
Okay.
Whereas a dog's natural diet, raw or home-cooked food, would be closer to 70%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
A huge difference.
I never really thought about it like that. Why is that level of moisture so important?
Because chronic dehydration can contribute to a whole host of health issues in dogs, including kidney problems, urinary tract infections, and even digestive issues.
Oh, wow.
Over time, this can lead to costly vet visits and discomfort for your furry friend.
Okay, so dehydration's a big one.
Yeah.
What are some of the other long-term risks they're concerned about?
They also highlight the potential for nutrient deficiencies.
Okay.
Even in dogs who seem to be eating a complete and balanced kibble diet, they argue that the high heat processing can destroy delicate nutrients like enzymes, which are essential for digestion and overall health. And as we talked about earlier, those added synthetic vitamins and minerals might not be as bioavailable as the naturally occurring ones.
So even if a dog isn't showing like outward signs of a deficiency, they might still be missing out on some key nutrients.
Exactly. And over time, these subtle deficiencies can contribute to a range of health problems, from skin and coat issues to immune system weakness to even behavioral problems.
This is all pretty eye-opening. I'm starting to wonder if maybe we've been lulled into a false sense of security with kibble because it's so convenient and familiar.
Yeah.
It sounds like Canine Health is advocating for a more natural, less processed approach to dog food.
Right.
But before we jump into those alternatives, I think we need to talk about this idea of ultra-processed foods.
Okay.
What exactly are they?
Yeah.
And how do they relate to kibble?
So it's a concept that's gaining a lot of traction in human nutrition, and it's starting to be applied to pet food as well.
Okay.
Ultra-processed foods are essentially industrial formulations that are created from substances extracted from whole foods, like refined oils, fats, starches, and proteins. They often contain long lists of ingredients, chemical additives, and very little actual whole food.
So it's like the food equivalent of Frankenstein's monster.
That's a very vivid way to put it.
Like taking bits and pieces and stitching them together into something that vaguely resembles food.
Yeah.
But isn't quite the real deal.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've got our Frankenstein food.
Yeah.
And the Yale Medicine article we have here highlights some of the potential health risks associated with these ultra-processed foods in humans.
Yes.
Like what kind of risks are we talking about?
The research suggests links to an increased risk of heart disease, mental health disorders, type 2 diabetes, and even certain cancers.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah.
So we're seeing these potential problems in humans.
Yeah.
But how does this relate back to kibble?
Well, many experts now consider kibble to be an ultra-processed food due to its manufacturing process and the heavy reliance on refined ingredients and additives.
So even those premium brands
absolutely,
with the fancy marketing claims could still fall into this ultra-processed category.
It's not necessarily about the brand name or the price tag, but rather the underlying process and the ingredient list.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So should we all be ditching kibble entirely?
Not necessarily. It's about making informed choices.
Okay.
Canine Health makes a strong case for considering the long-term implications of a kibble-heavy diet. And thankfully, there are a growing number of alternatives available that might better align with what our dogs truly need.
All right, so let's talk about those alternatives.
Okay.
What are some of the healthier options out there?
So Canine Health outlines several less processed alternatives that aim to provide a more natural and nutrient-rich diet.
Okay.
One option is freeze-dried raw food.
Okay.
It's made by freezing fresh raw ingredients and then removing the moisture without using high heat.
Okay.
This helps preserve more of the nutrients and natural enzymes.
So it's like getting the benefits of raw food.
Exactly.
Without the mess and hassle of thawing and prepping.
Exactly. It's convenient. Just add water before serving. Right. And many dogs find it quite palatable.
Okay. Are there any downsides to freeze-dried raw food?
Well, it can be a bit pricier than kibble.
Okay.
But it's often more calorie dense.
Yeah.
So dogs may eat less, which can offset the cost somewhat.
Okay.
And it's still important to check the ingredient list,
right? As
some brands may sneak in fillers or unnecessary additives.
So it's not a perfect solution, but it's definitely worth considering.
Yes.
What are some other alternatives we can explore?
Another popular option is air-dried or dehydrated raw food.
Okay.
This method uses low-temperature drying to remove moisture, which preserves nutrients better than the high-heat extrusion used for kibble.
Okay.
It's lighter than fresh raw food, but still high in protein, and many grain-free options are available.
So it's kind of like a happy medium between kibble and fully raw?
It is.
What are the pros and cons there?
Well, it's definitely more nutritious than most dry foods.
Okay.
And very convenient with no refrigeration required.
Okay.
It can be pricey, but again, the higher calorie density often means you feed less.
Right.
The biggest thing is to be mindful of that ingredient list, as some brands might still include starchy fillers.
Got it. So we've got freeze-dried, air-dried. What other alternatives are out there?
Gently cooked fresh food is another excellent option.
Ooh.
These are fresh whole food meals that are lightly cooked at low temperatures to preserve nutrients and enhance digestibility.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Is this something you have to make from scratch?
So you have both options.
Okay.
There are subscription services that deliver pre-portioned, gently cooked meals right to your door. And Canine Health even provides detailed recipes and meal plans. Okay. So you can cook balanced meals at home.
Interesting.
Using high-quality meat, vegetables, and healthy fats.
Home-cooked meals now. That sounds interesting.
It's a fantastic way to have complete control over your dog's nutrition and exactly what's going into their food.
Right.
And you can customize it based on their needs and preferences.
Oh, right.
Plus, many dogs find fresh, home-cooked meals to be incredibly delicious.
I can imagine like it's the difference between like a microwave dinner and a home-cooked meal for us humans.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What are like the key components of a balanced home-cooked diet for dogs?
Well, protein is essential, of course.
Okay.
Think lean meats, fish eggs. Those are your building blocks. Healthy fats are crucial, too, for energy, skin, and coat health.
Right.
And brain function.
So lots of variety in the protein and fat sources. What about carbohydrates and fiber? Aren't those the bad guys we were talking about earlier?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Carbohydrates and fiber play an important role in digestion and provide sustained energy.
Yeah.
It's all about choosing the right types and amounts.
Give me some examples.
Things like sweet potatoes, pumpkin.
Okay.
And certain fruits are good options.
Okay.
But we do want to avoid those highly processed grains and starches that are often found in kibble.
Okay, so it's all about balance.
Right.
And choosing the right ingredients.
Exactly.
This is starting to sound a lot more appealing than a bag of processed kibble. But before I get too carried away with this idea of whipping up gourmet meals for my pup every day.
Right.
Let's be realistic.
Okay.
What are the downsides of going the home-cooked route?
The biggest challenge is ensuring that you're creating truly balanced meals that meet all of your dog's nutritional needs.
Right.
It's not as simple as just throwing some meat and veggies in a bowl. Right.
You need to understand the right ratios of protein, fat, carbs.
Yeah.
And essential vitamins and minerals.
That makes sense. It sounds like it requires a bit of research and planning.
It's like we've been blindly trusting this one-size-fits-all approach to dog food.
Right.
Without really questioning whether it's truly the best option.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who are feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk of home-cooked meals and raw diets?
Yeah.
Are there any alternatives
Absolutely.
that offer a bit more convenience?
It's all about finding what works best for both you and your dog. So let's explore some options that strike a balance between convenience and providing high-quality nutrition.
I'm all ears. What else is out there?
Well, there's a growing trend towards gently cooked fresh food.
Okay.
These are meals made with whole, fresh ingredients that are lightly cooked at low temperatures to preserve nutrients and make them easier to digest.
That sounds intriguing. Is this something you have to make from scratch?
You have both options.
Okay.
There are several subscription services that deliver pre-portioned, gently cooked meals right to your door.
Okay.
These companies use human-grade ingredients and carefully formulated recipes to ensure balanced nutrition. Protein is the foundation, of course.
Okay.
You want to aim for about 40% to 50% of the diet coming from high-quality protein sources.
What are some good examples of protein sources?
Lean meats like chicken, turkey, beef, and fish. Including organ meats.
Organ meat?
Like liver, kidney, and heart.
Really?
A couple of times a week.
I don't think I could even stomach those myself.
I know they might not sound appetizing to us.
Yeah.
But they're actually nutritional powerhouses for dogs.
Interesting.
They're packed with vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that are essential for their health.
So protein's covered. What about those healthy fats we talked about earlier?
Those are crucial, too.
Okay.
Aim for about 10% to 20% of the diet coming from healthy fats.
Give me some examples.
Think things like fish oil, coconut oil, and even some animal fats like chicken fat.
So it's not just about lean meats.
Right.
But also making sure they're getting enough good fats.
Exactly.
What about carbohydrates and fiber?
Yeah.
Are those the things we're trying to avoid in kibble?
Not all carbs are created equal.
Okay.
You want to choose complex carbohydrates that are rich in fiber and nutrients.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Things like sweet potatoes, pumpkin quinoa, and even some fruits and veggies. They provide sustained energy and support healthy digestion.
Okay, so it's not about cutting out carbs entirely.
Right.
But rather choosing the right types and amounts. What else do I need to know about creating balanced home-cooked meals?
Well, calcium and phosphorus balance is crucial for bone and dental health. Adding things like crushed eggshells, plain yogurt, or even bone meal to ensure your dog is getting enough calcium.
That makes sense. Anything else I need to keep in mind?
Don't forget about those essential vitamins and minerals. Leafy greens, berries, and other colorful fruits and veggies to provide a natural source of vitamins and antioxidants.
This is all so much more nuanced than just scooping kibble out of a bag.
It is.
But it's also pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how home cooking can be a way to really nourish my dog and cater to their individual needs.
Absolutely.
But I have to admit, the thought of planning and preparing balanced meals every day is a little daunting. Okay, so let's take a peek at one of these meal plans.
Yeah, okay.
Do they have any specific examples we can walk through?
Absolutely. Let's look at the sample meal plan for a 50-pound, highly active Irish setter.
Okay.
They estimate that this dog needs between 1,400 and 1,600 calories per day.
Okay, 1,400 to 1,600 calories?
Divided into 2 meals.
Okay, what does that look like in terms of actual food?
For breakfast, they recommend 6 ounces of cooked ground turkey.
Okay.
A 1/4 cup of cooked quinoa. A 1/4 cup of steamed spinach and carrots. A teaspoon of fish oil. And 1/2 teaspoon of crushed eggshells for calcium.
Wow, that's a power breakfast.
Yeah.
What about dinner?
Dinner is 5 ounces of lightly cooked beef liver and ground beef.
Okay.
A 1/4 cup of mashed sweet potato. A 1/4 cup of steamed broccoli and zucchini.
Okay.
And a tablespoon of plain yogurt.
I'm loving all this variety.
Yeah.
And it's great that they're getting organ meats, too.
Right.
But what about treats? Can I still give my dog treats if I'm feeding them home-cooked meals?
Treats are a great way to reward good behavior and reinforce training.
Yeah.
Just be mindful of the ingredients and the calorie content.
So no more store-bought treats?
It's best to avoid those, yes.
Loaded with sugar and artificial flavors.
But there are plenty of healthy and delicious treat options out there.
Okay.
For homemade treats using ingredients like peanut butter, bananas, and oats.
This is amazing. I'm already starting to feel like a dog food expert.
I love it.
But what about those of us who are really short on time?
Yeah.
Or just not comfortable with the idea of cooking for our dogs? Are there any other alternatives?
One more option.
Okay.
Commercially prepared raw food diets.
Raw food. That's the one that always sparks a lot of debate.
It does.
What exactly does that entail?
It's basically a diet that consists of raw meat,
Okay.
bones, organs, and sometimes fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
All blended together in specific ratios.
So no cooking involved at all?
Right.
Isn't that kind of risky?
What
What about bacteria?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But the reputable brands follow strict safety protocols to minimize the risk of contamination.
Okay.
They also offer detailed guidelines for safe handling and storage.
So it's not as scary as it sounds.
Right.
What are the benefits of feeding a raw diet?
Proponents of raw feeding argue that it's the most natural and species-appropriate diet for dogs.
Okay.
They believe that raw food provides a higher level of nutrients and enzymes that are often destroyed during cooking.
So it's about getting back to a more ancestral diet for dogs.
Exactly.
Interesting.
They also point to potential benefits, like improved digestion, shinier coats, increased energy levels, and even a reduced risk of allergies.
That's pretty compelling. But I imagine raw feeding isn't for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the downsides?
Well, cost is a major factor.
Yeah.
Raw food can be significantly more expensive than kibble,
Okay.
especially if you're buying pre-made meals.
And what about the convenience factor?
Right.
It sounds like it involves a lot more prep work.
You're right. It does require more effort in terms of storage,
Right.
thawing, and portioning.
Yeah.
And you need to be extra vigilant about hygiene to minimize any risks associated with handling raw meat.
So it's definitely a commitment.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it could be a really rewarding way to feed your dog.
It can be.
If you're willing to put in the time and effort. What about those of us who are still on the fence about ditching kibble entirely?
Yeah.
Are there any options that kind of breach the gap?
Few kibble brands that are considered to be higher quality and less processed than the standard options.
Look for kibble that's made with whole food ingredients. Limited or no artificial additives. And preferably air-dried or baked rather than extruded.
So it's about reading those labels carefully and making informed choices.
You want to be an advocate for your dog's health.
Right.
And choose a kibble that aligns with your values and priorities.
This is all so helpful. I feel like we've explored every corner of the dog food world.
We have. I think it's time to let our listeners digest all this information.
Yeah.
And start thinking about which path they want to explore.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
To recap the key takeaways, leave you with some final thoughts.
All right.
And hopefully inspire you to take action.
Yeah.
And make some positive changes for your furry friend.
I love it.
So so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into dog food.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot.
A lot of ground.
From, the potential downsides of kibble.
Right.
To all the, really cool alternatives.
All those options.
Yeah. And, whether you're thinking about switching to raw feeding. Or, dipping your toe into home-cooked meals.
Yeah.
Or just, finding a better kibble.
Right.
So I think the main takeaway here is knowledge is power. Right. Now we've got all this info.
Yeah.
And we can actually advocate for our dog's health.
You're empowered now.
Exactly. So let's recap.
Okay.
What have we learned?
Yeah.
Number one, kibble.
Yeah.
Despite being so convenient, might not be the best thing.
Right. Not the nutritional powerhouse you thought it was.
All that processing.
Right. All that heat.
Yeah. And potentially bad ingredients.
Yeah. Not the best quality ingredients.
All of the synthetic additives.
It's additives, yeah.
Make us wonder about the long-term health impacts.
The long-term effects.
Of kibble.
Right.
And they really highlighted those ultra-processed foods.
The ultra-processed foods are a big concern these days.
Which is a lot of kibble.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then we read that Yale article.
Yes, that Yale study.
About ultra-processed foods in humans.
Right. And it's we can't ignore that research.
No.
Because it's looking at the link between ultra-processed food and chronic illness.
And it makes sense that would apply to our dogs, too.
Absolutely.
So it's not about hating on kibble,
right?
But realizing there might be
better options.
Yeah. Healthier ways.
Healthier ways to feed our dogs.
Yeah. So we had freeze-dried raw.
Right. All the convenience without sacrificing the nutrition.
Exactly. And then there was air-dried and dehydrated.
Yeah, sort of like a nice middle ground between kibble and raw.
And then for the really adventurous home-cooked meals.
Home-cooked meals are great.
And finding what works for you and your dog.
Exactly.
Like maybe you start with some fresh food toppers.
That's a great way to start.
Yeah. Or a couple freeze-dried meals a week.
Yeah, just experiment.
Yeah.
See what your dog likes.
Right. And slowly transition.
Make those gradual changes.
To a better diet.
Yeah.
It's not all or nothing.
It's a journey.
Exactly.
Take those baby steps and celebrate those wins.
I love it. So at the end of our deep dive, what's the one thing you hope people take away from this?
I hope listeners feel empowered to question what they're being told, to do their own research, and make choices that really align with what's best for their dog.
And to remember, nutrition isn't just about filling a bowl.
Right.
It's about fueling a life. It's about giving our dogs the best chance at a long, healthy, happy life.
I love that.
It's all about those happy tails.
All right. So I think that's it.
Yeah. I think we covered it all.
I think we did it. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. 4 recurring narratives underlie every episode: boundary dissolution, adaptive complexity, embodied knowledge, and quantum-like uncertainty. These aren't just philosophical musings, but frameworks for understanding our modern world. We hope you continue exploring our other podcasts, responding to the content, and checking out our related articles at helioxpodcast.substack.com.